Hello, Richard here from OneSight Solutions. Welcome to this training video on categories, roles and users. We're also going to be covering nav files in this training video. The reason why we need to set all this up is to determine what users can do what they can see, what permissions they have. So we need to tailor it to different types of users. So the first thing you have to do is go to category service. So I've already set all of mine up. So all I'm going to do is talk you through what I've done. So if you go to my category service here, you can see all these. The first thing I've done is created some new categories along the top. So by default, you have the user and the admin there already, and I've added some other categories. To do that, you have to go into your view here and choose category manager. Then you can hit new and you can just create a new category. So if I go back, you have to just fill out under each category what ords they can see and what ones they can't see. So you just cherry pick which points they can get to and what they can't get to. So you can refine it very precisely by unfolding these folders and get them right down to the actual ords of schedules. Get right down to the fine point that you want to get to. So I've taken about the last 2 or 3 hours setting mine up actually and checking it all. It does take a while to set these up. You never get this right first time, so it's a bit trial and error as well. But thankfully, you only have to do it on the supervisor usually, unless your Jace has got all your graphics on it. You'd have to do it there. So the next thing you do is set up role service. So we go in there and we can click on new at the bottom here and set up some new user roles. And then when you set these up, so I've set one up for the ground floor here. You give it a name. You can choose which hierarchies that user is going to be able to see and use, and also you choose which category you've set up. So you can pick from different categories. So my ground floor, they've got user read, write, and invoke rights for operator and admin. So different slots have different user rights. So they're either operator or admin. So I've just allowed all for my ground floor users so they can completely control the ground floor. And so if I go to, for instance, this master engineer one, you can see there I've picked from different categories so they can get to everything in the heating, AHU, first floor and ground floor. So the basic engineer, he can get to everything on your AHU and heating, but you can only read the points on the ground floor and the first floor. So you can set these up however you want to. You can pretty much get it to do what you want it to do. After you set your role services up, the next best thing to do is go and set your nav files up. So down at the bottom now, under files, I've created a folder called navs, and under there I've set up some nav files. So to do that, you just right click on folder and say new and choose navfile.nav. So if I click on the first one and see, all I've done here is set up a landing page. So if I double click on this, you just select your target ord by using the component chooser and saying where you want that user to, when they log on, what's the first thing they're going to see, what page will they go to. So this one is going to go to my first floor, obviously. Then the ground floor one would go to the ground floor, and the one I've called home would take me to the home page. Okay, so that's what you do next, and then you go and set your users up. I change this to AX user view because it's a bit clearer. So when I set my users up, so if I go to the ground floor, you then select what role you want them to use. So again, you could assign more than one role for each user, but my ground floor user is just going to be using the ground user role. You have to give it a name, obviously, and give it a password as well down here. You can force a reset at next logon. So if you said yes here, you could tell the user what the password is you've given to them. And then when they log on, the first thing that happens is they get asked to change the password. And then the last thing, so the nav file you have to set up here as well. So this is a landing page for my ground floor user. And then the last thing you need to do is set up your default web profile by selecting these objects here. So Workbench views is it's like the schedules, the alarm console, and other views like that on your PX views. Your nav tree sidebar is the sidebar that you see in the web page, and a search feature, so they can have the search feature if so that's searching using the tags that we've added. Palette, you can add a nav file tree. So if you had created a nav file tree, you can enable that. I'm using hierarchies and navigation on my PX pages, so I don't need to worry about nav file tree. Config tree, you can enable that, and files so they can get to these areas. And then histories and hierarchies, these are the results of the histories and the hierarchies down the bottom of your down the bottom of your station. And then this enable view selection is whether or not they can get to different views of a page. So I've said no there. Okay, so I've gone ahead and set all these up. So I've set one up for the ground floor, one for the first floor, one for the master engineer, and also I'll set up Dan as a basic engineer as well. The other thing you might notice, I've deleted the admin user, so you can do that, but obviously before you delete the admin user, you want to create another admin user. So I've set up a OneSight Solutions user as admin, given it a new password. So now the admin, even though we changed the admin password when we first set up this station, I don't have an admin user anymore either. So it's just heightening that security even further. Okay, if we go and have a look at the web browser view, starting with the ground floor, if I log on for my ground floor user. So this would take, my landing page was set up for the ground floor. So this is taking me straight to the ground floor. In my sidebar, I gave them access to the sidebar when I set up the user. You can see I've got histories, so they can get to all the histories for the ground floor, but not for the first floor. So that's when I set up my category service. I just cherry picked which histories they can see. And the hierarchy I selected in the user role, and I set it up for fan core unit. But the fan core unit hierarchy, if you looked at it in Workbench, it would actually get to the first floor as well. But because I haven't given them, I haven't selected those in my category service, then they can only see the ground floor. They can't see the first floor at all, even though it's the same hierarchy that would normally show the first floor as well. Okay, so you can see in my header now as well that all the first floor buttons have been grayed out, which means I can't use them. They were disabled using the degrade behavior when we've done the PX include lab. We also, my alarm console button here, which tells me how many alarms there are, I've also made that hidden using the degrade behavior, so they can't see that. They can get to the set points, and they can even get to emergency overrides. That's because I've given them, when we set up the role service and we selected the admin and the operator read, write and invoke boxes, I gave them admin rights so they can actually get to the emergencies as well. So I could have turned that off so they could just get to the override auto and set. And if you just wanted to get to the set, then you'd have to go to the component and go to the config flags in the slot sheet and select there what that you want them to see and what that you don't want them to see. Okay, so now also this has been hidden. It's usually my boiler return temperature there, so I've made that hidden for the ground floor. When you look at the first floor, I've left it. We use just so you can see the difference. So when we look at that in a second. But yeah, so they can navigate from here now, and they can navigate from here, and they get to the histories, etc. Okay, so if I log on now as a first floor. So now their landing page is obviously the first floor, and it's the opposite of the ground floor. So now these buttons are bold and the other ones are grayed out. So that's just by setting them up the same. But obviously now the first floor users don't have access to the ORDs for the ground floor. Also, you can notice that it hasn't got a sidebar. So I've set the user policy up slightly different, so they don't have access to the sidebar and menu, and they also don't have access to the search. So it's more like a kiosk mode now. So here you can see the boiler return temperature is not reading it. That's because I haven't disabled it. I haven't used the degrade behavior. It just hasn't got access to that ORD, so it just won't view it. I can obviously change the set point still. This one now has only got operator rights when we set up the user role, sorry. So now they can get to the operator ones, not the emergency ones. So again, slightly different to the way I've set up the ground floor. Okay, so now if I go to my engineers views, so if I log on as Dan, so Dan is set up as a basic engineer. So Dan doesn't have a sidebar. He doesn't have the sidebar menu, but he has the search feature. So you can use the search. So I've already got one cached in there. If I hit that, it's now going to find all my fan coil units on the ground floor. If I just leave it to fan coil units, so it's looking for the tags that we've added to these points, it will find all 4. If I just put ground in there, it will find the demand for that's obviously got a tag on it as well. The ground floor, which is a folder, so it's the same as hitting this button. It'll take you to the same place. So these 3 are the same as those 3 buttons there. But you can use these rather than having a header with navigation on it. So Dan can get to almost everywhere on my station. You can get to the home page by clicking on here. He can right click on first stage frost and change the set point. He can change his his chart, sorry. So he's put on there the boiler return temp and the boiler flow temp, but you could change that by dragging points onto it. Yeah, you can't actually because you can't get to them. But when he goes to one of the fan coil units, because he hasn't got, he's only got read properties set up, so you can't actually click on anything and change anything here. Okay, so you can only read the information on here. You can still use this button to get to the alarms and acknowledge all the alarms. Just acknowledge some of them and go back again. But he can't change any set points on the fan coil units on the ground floor or the first floor. So if I go to the first floor, he's just got read-only rights here. So he can't disable the fan, and he can't change the set point. So now if I log on as the advanced engineer, or master engineer, I called it. So now, I've changed the options again. So now I've got the right-hand view, so I can change my view to property sheet. So I can look at property sheet view of that same ORD. I can go into my menu on the side here. I've got config files because I selected those options when I set my user up. So I can't get to all my services because when I done my category selection, I only chose 4 of them here. And same for my driver, I only selected BACnet. I didn't select Modbus or Niagara Network. So I can get to my BACnet points, but nothing else. Okay, but you can see I can get to a lot more things than the basic engineer. I can get to all my file system as well. To my charts, which is obviously a good place to be able to get to. So I can look at some charts that I've saved. I'll get to all my hierarchies as well. So let's and I've got the search feature, so I can search for ground, and get to use that for navigation as well. So that's it really. So you can see how you can set all these pages up differently from one another by using the categories, roles and users and nav files as well. So I hope that's helped you. Hope you've enjoyed watching this video. If you have, please like and subscribe at the bottom. And don't forget to come and visit our website at OneSight Solutions. And I'll see you on the next one.